Okay, actually, that.
And the rainy day fund we will also borrow from. And did you notice we went from a red ink deficit, now we have positive figures. And if I can, what?
We don't have
no,
positive
sorry,
figures
I was
just
reading
yet.
the wrong end. We're still 18 and
we're still not
yeah,
doing great.
We're not out of the woods at all.
Yeah. Now this hurricane relief fund, we took some of the monies. You'll see that it's zeroed out from this first year on. Now we took some of the money out of the fund and used it to let the governor pay for furloughs.
Yes, that's really the important fact to mention, that when it is
here.
the Hurricane Relief Fund, and they're just putting back in, there's 92 million, which is more than enough. It's almost sufficient to cut out even the 2010 and 2011 entirely.
Right.
It's a great cause. One of the first things that the caucus wanted to do in the 2010 session was to end furloughs, and two, keep people on their jobs without increasing any taxes to create any unemployment. So that furlough one, that's money well spent, and again, it'll be repaid, and you show it there right
and
on
it
the,
is, yes, and then we do repay it in fiscal year 14 and 15.
14, 15.
Yeah.
And by then, ladies and gentlemen, we're assuming, God willing, the economy will have turned around, people will be back to work, and repaying this will not be a difficult proposition.
We also, the rainy day fund here, we used it in fiscal year 12. There's a bill moving right now to use it sooner for human services and other things, which all important causes. We actually felt like we didn't need it until fiscal year 12. And this is so that we don't have to cut things as badly and all that stuff. But this is when our federal funds start running out and stuff
that'll
like
be a
that,
surprise to some of the people who think that, oh, EPOD is going to be cut in 232 jobs in the Department of Human Services. This budget does not rely upon EPOD. It does not cut out any of those due to that automation. In fact, it disregards those $9 million of savings every year entirely.
Okay, and then some of the spending, these are some of the big adjustments.
Okay, let's look at those big adjustments.
Labor, salary reductions, unfortunately.
Yeah, those are now the 12 and 13. So those are the ones that we had to, because of the lack of revenue projections.
Right, and again, nobody wants to do it, and hopefully the money comes up and nobody has to do it. But this is a budget and it's an estimation, right? So
and the way that influences the bottom line, I think that one got lost up in it.
Oh yeah, it's down at the
See
bottom
the balances?
of the screen.
Every time she clicks on something, the ending balance. Okay, we are still in a negative of FY11.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one for revenues is...
Oh, for revenues. Well, we didn't take most of the revenues. As you can see, these are all the tax increases.
Those are all the job killers, right?
Right, but if you go online, you can take them yourself.
The barrel tax, the timeshare tax, all of those. Yeah, if they go online, they can see individual, and you can check off how, if you want to make the budget fat with taxation, which are job killers, and small business are going to get rid of their employees, you can do that and actually get in there and muck around with the budget, just as we are here.
Now, one of the big things that we did, and I think this probably needs to be discussed a bit, is we adjusted the Medicaid plans.
Okay.
And that is where a lot of our changes really took place. And I'll just go back up there. Okay, and currently what it is that most people that are receiving Medicaid, actually all people that are receiving Medicaid, are getting unlimited benefits with no copay.
What's Medicaid? For those of you who don't know the terminology, what's Medicaid?
It's basically state-funded
if
healthcare. If you're unemployed or underemployed.
Okay. Yeah. Basically, people who are, quote, on welfare, poor, who need a help from the hand.
Right.
And the government.
Which, completely fair, something we want to do. Yeah, I think everybody can agree with that.
You go to the doctor, you better get a cast and crutches because we want to make you strong, and then you get back on your feet and productively again.
Right. Now, what we did was we changed some of the benefit structure for people that are able-bodied between 18 and 64. And so they're not pregnant, they're not disabled. And we said, okay, we're going to have to limit this plan a little bit, so 12 doctor's visits a year, still unlimited emergency dental, transportation benefits, so if you need to take an ambulance, we're paying for all of that still. You get 4 prescription drugs, generic or brand name, still no copays, but without that limit, and people will make like it's a very big thing that we're doing and that we're really hurting the poor, but I think without that limit, we just can't continue to sustain the budget.
Is it fair to say it's comparable to what otherwise people who are working and have a health plan, that the benefits are comparable rather than
Absolutely.
this is previously a Cadillac plan?
Absolutely.
And everybody's driving around in a, I used to say Mazda, now maybe a Hugo or something.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So fair and equitable. And the point being that we have a very responsible, fiscally sustainable social net. Nobody wants to hurt the poor, nobody wants to hurt the weak. But remember, when they say put the GT tax out there, it hits the poor, it hits the weak more than anybody, because 4% when you have no income is really heavy for each time that you've got the budget. I think what we should do as you go through those numbers, clicking on them and showing them as they increase, I'm going to go through some of the highlights in addition to what we've mentioned, how this is socially responsible, even putting back money into the library funds. It puts back money into the Kapuna Care. For those of you with older people, it's very responsible to give you a chance to get your elderly back with respite and other care. The Furlough Fridays, as we mentioned, is only a borrowing from the Hurricane Relief Fund. It's not a rating, and it's taking also a reduction in the payroll of the state government. We have like 66,000 active employees. We want to have an incentive for early retirement. For those of you who are near, we're going to be able to pay you not only your existing salary, but an incentive bonus to retire early and reduce the payroll. Why we think that's important? Because 70% of every dollar spent by the state is because of employees' wages. So the kindest and gentlest way to decrease spending is to have those who are ready to retire to retire. Some of the other features for income raising, and I think you may have checked those off already. We're going to sell 3 parcels of land, non-ceded lands. It's just like sometimes when you have to sell the family car that you've got sitting in the backyard. We're going to raise revenue by doing that, and that is a very number of ways to do it, but we thought this would be the least benign. We're also going to add efficiency to the state government hospitals. We're going to put them into a management system where the subsidies will be decreased because we put in $31 million per year to run our hospitals like we run the government. And you know the government is not very efficient running some of those. Anytime you want to comment on any of these, you just jump in, Beth. We lay off, as I said, we avoid any layoffs from the EPOD, as I mentioned earlier. That automation system is not assumed to be in this budget. And as we mentioned earlier, we have restored the TAT tax except for 20% in the city and county and all the other areas. What we'd like to do is to wrap up and say, this is a primer, this is in a very abridged form of you, the citizens of Hawaii, looking at your budget, getting onto the website, getting in there, make your assumptions by what things need to be done and not to be done. But we're going to say this. We do not need to increase the GT tax. We do not need to put the burden on small businesses any more heavy as it is now. And if Beth agrees with me, we will sign off and say aloha and thank you for watching. This is Representative Gene Ward. Thank you with this word from Ward.